Punch it, Chewy. There we go.
We're live.
We're
Hello,
live.
everyone. We were gone for a minute. Happy holidays and happy new year. And we are off to a ripping bull market here. This is Money Bobsters episode 7. I got a gift here. If the background here will decide that, well, it's probably backwards, right? But it says Money Mobsters. You'll have to take my word for it. The lovely fiance, she got me a little sign. So that's fun to commemorate the Money Mobsters. And looks like we've got June already in the chat. Hello, hello. Dougie, what's going on, brother? Long time no see.
I know, right? Man, it feels like it's been a minute. Like, we've been texting back and forth, and being in the group chats and everything. So it's not like we haven't been talking. It's just like we haven't had a chance to just like sit down and talk about everything. And wow, kind of a lot has happened.
A lot has gone on, and we're gonna get into all of it. We've got a pretty packed list here of stuff. And apologies for missing a few weeks, guys. I was sick, and I've had some nonsense happening on the personal life side here. I know Dougie wanted to hear about it. So Dougie, what do you want to know?
I mean, break it down for us. I mean, because part of it tells people who you are. Like, a lot of folks might not know that Austin is an enemy of the people, aka a landlord.
Yes, I'm public enemy number one to Mom Donnie. I do own property. It is white supremacy that I own a house. No, I'm just kidding, guys. For those who know will know. Those who don't, it's fine. So I bought a house a few years back, and I was house hacking. I was renting out rooms, and that process worked great. And you meet a gal, you get your own apartment, have a little bit of privacy. So I rented out the other rooms for a good minute, probably about the last 2 years or so. And I've got the house listed, and someone decided to make themselves at home. So we can't have that. When people are walking into the house thinking about whether or not they're going to buy the house, you can't have dirty clothes and soap in the bathroom. You just can't have that. So I made it a little bit more difficult for them to get into the house the next time.
You had squatters.
I had squatters, yeah. So I decided that I was going to make it significantly harder for them to actually get into the house. So they decided that they would throw a rock at my window and take my copper pipes. They were eventually able to get in. It took some extra effort, but they took the copper pipes off my water heater, and they took some bolt cutters to my main water line. So I haven't had it repaired. Obviously, this just happened this week, but it's probably looking like $5,000 worth of damage. Yeah. So I also am exercising my Second Amendment. So hopefully everybody makes good decisions and they get to keep their lives.
Well, wait. I thought that, if what's the lines like? Or so you telling me that, your property is more valuable than someone else's life?
No, I would never say that on a recorded live stream, Dougie. What I'm saying is, if I'm in the house and I feel threatened, that I hope everybody makes good decisions so that everyone can go home.
There you go. All right.
There it is.
So God for the squatters of Arizona,
for the squatters of Arizona that watch stock channels.
Right. First of all, that is a good decision. So keep making good decisions and don't go be a squatter in Austin's house.
Yeah. But what have you been up to the last 3 weeks or so since our last stream?
Oh man, well, we had holidays, and the main hobby, investing, has still been going on. So still been doing the market stuff. Glitter bombs are cool, but they don't stop people from coming in. They just kind of make people laugh.
They also just create a mess for me to clean up.
Yeah, and then make a giant mess for him. And apparently bad for the environment too. That's the thing. But yeah, we got let's see, NCAA gymnastics season kicked off.
Okay.
Went out to Baton Rouge and did that. It's that's a lot of fun. It's kind of a unique experience, but
What do you like about gymnastics?
I mean, it just makes for really good TV. Like everything is so in the team competition, everything is like really razor thin, close margins a lot of time, right?
Okay.
So it comes down to like the tiniest wobble on the balance beam can throw the competition one way or another. But in the team setting, there's 6 routines, but you only count the top 5 scores. So the athletes, they do get a little bit of a, okay, well, we had one person mess up, well, now the rest of the team has to come in and pick up for her, right? So they really do introduce like a solid, we're not just a bunch of individuals out here. It's like we are actually functioning as a team.
So it's like a dual meet, like wrestling, where you have
dual meet. So we traveled to that. We're boosters of the program at LSU, so we have season tickets and we go down there, drive from Houston for every home meet.
That's how you got Libby Dunn's phone number,
amongst other things. Yeah.
Yeah,
we got another one of our alumni. I was chatting with her the other day. She's actually has a WWE tryout this week, so that should be interesting to find out how she did there.
I'm sure she's just shooing as long as she like can get a hold of the basic movements, which I'm sure she'll be fine. Like there's a lot of non-athletes on WWE, right?
Right. Yeah, from the athleticism side, just an elite gymnast has elite strength to weight ratio.
Oh yeah,
aerial stuff they're totally fine with, right? Like, so yeah,
that'll be cakewalk for her.
And then she also enjoys, this particular girl, she also likes powerlifting as a hobby. So
that's awesome. So let's dig into some stocks here. Let's dig into yours first here. You made a few trades. Let's talk about it.
So I kind of caved into a lot of the peer pressure for like responsible management of the portfolio, and I trimmed some of my Robinhood.
Okay.
Sold that down to be about 30% of my overall holdings now. So a lot of people would say that's still irresponsibly high. And yeah, on days when it takes a 2 or 3% dip, it kind of hurts now,
But you were even more overweight than that before, right?
Yeah. I've sold almost 1,000 shares.
Yeah. And you had spreads that you've also relinquished.
Yes. Yeah. I had spreads. They were still 2027 spreads, but they were tough to get rid of because they were really illiquid because it was so far in the money. These were like 35, 37s, right? So when I opened them, they were kind of at the money, but now they're so far in the money that there's no real volume in them. And like I had already realized like 80%, or I was ready to realize like 80% of the total gain on the spread. And so I was like, okay, well, you can hold it to expiration, but you only are going to gain 20% more of the total value on the trade. So
yeah, most of the trade has already been won.
Yeah. So I waited till the new year for tax purposes, and I waited till I had held it for more than a year and a day. So it's long-term capital gains, and it's going to be on my 2026 instead of my 2025 taxes.
Wonderful. Point for folks listening, if you've never thought about this, I mean, it seems really simple, but I didn't consider it for years. If you sell on December 31st, you owe your money in roughly 4 months. If you sell on January 2nd, then you have roughly 15, 16 months to actually come up with the money for that tax liability. Now, I'm not a CPA. This is not tax advice. Just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Look at a calendar, folks. That's all he's saying. Look at a calendar.
You also made a
professional for planning.
You also made a trade on UVix, right?
Yeah, so a lot of people, particularly in like the group chats and everything, may have been following along with the fact that I was trying to use UVix as a hedge, thinking it would be a little simpler than like trading weekly options on the VIX. And I was able to execute that strategy successfully when I tried it well, with like a small pot. But man, this thing just kept the nav just kept eroding, and I was like I mean, I guess the point of a hedge is is essentially to go to zero, but this thing just was heading down, and and we invaded Venezuela, and had massive protests in Iran, and the president or the Justice Department is announced that they're investigating the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and nothing made the VIX go up. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not. I mean, I gotta figure out another way to hedge, but this.
Yeah,
this
the market's numb to it. They're with Steve now. They don't care.
Yeah, 4 words. Yeah, you can't shock it. You can't shock them anymore. You just can't shock them anymore. But what I did think also is that sneaky DJT, he learned from Liberation Day. Do not announce this on a trading day. You have to do it on a weekend.
Yeah,
you got to do this stuff on the weekend. And then the news site, you have 48 hours of news cycle. People digest it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the overnight tradings happens. Maybe the weekend, or like crypto absorbs all that crazy volatility, and then by Monday, everybody's bored of the news. They're tired of their X feeds acting crazy, and they're back to business as usual.
And I wonder if any of that was a recommendation of Scotty V. I'm not sure how you feel about him, but I think just based on what we've seen in the first year, like this guy's so razor sharp. He's also a really calming voice to the market. My prediction for 26 is I think that Scott Bessent might go down as one of the best Treasury secretaries we've ever had. But of course, there's 3 years to go here, so I'm calling it early. But just based on what we saw last year, I mean, how many things can you juggle at the same time and not drop any balls? And he's done such a great job, in my opinion.
Yep. This is getting a little ahead, but I guess it's close to that. Well, no, we can hit that later. But put a pin in that thought, because we'll revisit it a little further down the dock.
And Scotty V.
On someone doing a great job.
Okay. Did I put it where you want it? Do you see where I'm at?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. You also made some trades on Grab. So I know Amit's been sort of pounding the table a little bit as to like either you believe in the thesis or you don't. Nothing's really changed, I don't think. So like the thesis should still be intact.
Well, the thing that changed is NVIDIA's CES reveal on their autonomous driving. I think that might be sparking some of this, but I think Amit's starting to get a little wishy-washy on it, to be honest with you. He's not pounding the table. I mean, we've seen pound the table behavior. That was Palantir, that was NVIDIA. Grab's a little more like, the numbers just make too much sense, and they continue to. So my thesis is still intact. You have way too much cash versus enterprise value. You have a profitable company. You have a founder, kick-ass CEO. The only reason that no one knows what it is because it operates in Southeast Asia. Well, that's a huge market that it doesn't have any peer competitors in. So while it's not the U.S. market and no one's ever heard of it, for most investors, I mean, eventually the money flowing to these companies has to be reflected in the share price, right? Like eventually it has to be. I don't know what the trigger is because we could say the same thing about PayPal, but man, that one is starting to get unbelievably attractive.
So right now they're sitting at $7 billion of cash in short-term investments, and their market cap is about $19 billion. So like Doug was saying, about one in every $3 that you would invest in this is straight cash. They're trading at 463 right now. So Grav has sort of been hovering around that 460 to $6 range for what, a year and a half now, 2 years.
Yep. And I got some great prices on some leaps. I mean, some fantastic prices on leaps. Yeah, so I bought 100 contracts for January 2028 for $1.93.
Because the IV is super low. Now, keep in mind the open interest and liquidity is not like, it's not Apple, it's not Google, but you know, it's good enough that you can get a decent trade on it, right?
Well, I mean, you got to be able to acquire it. And yeah, so then the question is, well, what's your exit plan? Okay, well, let's let the stock play out first and we'll find out what kind of liquidity we get further down the line. But I mean, the $4 call that's in the money, right? I got it for $1.93. That's essentially the cash portion of the share price, right? Like,
yeah, it's a good setup. I like it.
Yeah.
And then NVIDIA. So was this, did you buy more based on something that you saw at CES, like particularly the full self-driving?
Oh yeah, I can't own enough. And the only reason not to own NVIDIA right now is that it is the largest market cap.
Sure.
But
speaking of which, by the way, isn't it funny how we went from is Google dying to is Google going to pass NVIDIA like within 6 months?
No.
I don't know if it will or not. I just think it's funny that like the narrative changed that much.
Yeah, but I mean, NVIDIA is branching out too quickly. Jensen, you know, like reading his biography really opened my eyes into how he runs that company, and it really got to see the DNA of the company itself. He's not out to do what Lisa Su does, which is, you know, find a market and make a product for that market and compete in that market that's kind of in or adjacent to your wheelhouse and what you do very well, right? Jensen's out there to make new markets and then just own them.
Right.
I mean, look what he's done with self-driving. You know, the end product certainly is competitive with, you know, the leader in Tesla, but he's also got a design that is resellable in, you know, he's got basically 3 different products he can sell for OEMs that want to begin exploring selling self-driving. And that's just like amazing business acumen, because he's got the stack, right? So I mean, he could even like Tesla could even become a customer of NVIDIA's on self-driving.
Yeah, he's building the scaffolding of the future. That's how I think about it. Like he's the one putting up all of both the money and the talent to be able to make all these things happen, and he's creating the whole ecosystem. Like he's really just carrying the whole AI trade on his back. It's when Dan Ives calls him the godfather of AI, yep. It's so accurate.
Yeah, because he makes you an offer you can't refuse.
And then next up here, you've got Baidu, which is kind of in that same realm there of self-driving, and you keep calling them the Google of China.
Yep.
So is this you adding on here, or are you like changing your position?
Adding. Wish I had, you know, and wishing I had bought more when it was cheaper, you know. But trying to learn the discipline of buying into strengths on some of my positions, and you know, like I said, buying. So yeah, I liquidated the Robinhood, like I said, so I had some cash to make some moves with here. But I would like to keep like 50K in for a Liberation Day 2.0 type of thing to get some buys in. And then you know, really establish a position in Zeta as well. Probably should have closed it when I heard that Chris was going to buy, but.
And why is that?
Because he's great at what he does, which is finding these little niches in these trades that are very research dependent, where you had to go look under a rock and find this thing you didn't really think of. But he comes up with a great thesis for it. But when he tends to look at the things everyone else is already doing or exciting about, the high beta stuff, tends not to work out very well. I point to NVIDIA's recent price action, BMNR's recent price action, and now Zeta's recent price action, like today's Zeta price action.
Yeah, I think everything in advertising got whacked pretty good today, but I'm not that concerned about it. For those curious about Zeta, we're going to refer you to a few different people. Nate Endicott, he's got some good videos and information on X. Wealthmatica, Davis Cheney, Davis C15, I think is his username on X, and then also Admit, he's got a deep dive that he did a really comprehensive deep dive on Substack. If you just Google Admit Zeta Substack, you'll find it. It's free, no paywall. There will never be anything on a paywall permit. And then just circling back to what you're saying about Baidu here, I was looking through JP Morgan's 2026 outlook. I found something pretty interesting here in their China section of the report. What we're looking at here in the orange is their exports. They just indexed this out to 100, what you can see on the y-axis.
Okay.
And so they're measuring exports against corporate earnings. And so far, the last 5 years or so, basically since COVID, their exports have not really translated into corporate earnings. So I think maybe the takeaway could be that they're actually just trying to gain market share or do what's called dumping, which there's been dozens and dozens of claims that China is dumping, most notably in industries like steel and coal, energy.
The tariffs policy, gee, wonder where that came from.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you have a centralized government that is pouring tons and tons of dollars into these industries just to drive other people out of the market, it would make sense that your exports continue higher while your corporate earnings don't continue. I personally don't own any Chinese stocks specifically for that reason, because they kind of have this idea of the tallest nail gets the hammer. If you stand out too much like Jack Ma did, you end up getting disappeared for a little bit until you come back a little bit more quiet and humble. So that's personally why I've stayed away from it. But when you describe it as the Google of China, it really does start to look pretty compelling when you dig into their numbers.
Its numbers are fantastic. I remember I was listening to Bill Gurley talk about it for the first time, and I was driving through nowhere, Kansas, the back road state highways in Kansas on the way to a rocket launch, and I was listening to the BG2 podcast and Gurley talk about it, and he started talking about, again, things we look for, like cash on hand versus enterprise value, right? Just kind of like giant macro things in the company and its valuation. And it was just like, oh, I have to not only stop what I'm doing right now, but like instant, like call Amit right now and say, hey, this is, we might have another one. Now he hasn't jumped on that, but I almost got a ticket because the little highway I was on went from a 70 mile an hour like in, and I went into a little town, didn't realize it because I was texting in my rented Hyundai, which tried to kill me multiple times.
Did you listen to the Tim Ferriss episode of Bill Gurley? He was talking specifically about China.
It might have been that particular one, but yeah.
Because he's talked about it before on BGT too, and obviously he's a huge proponent of open source, and he thinks that that's the way. But he recently went on Tim Ferriss and did like a full hour just on China. For those interested in learning what's going on in East Asia, Bill actually went there, and they took him to a few different facilities. So he's actually got boots on the ground. He gives some really, really solid insight there.
And most of my thesis is don't own China, but Bill makes an excellent argument, and so I'm willing to take 2% of my portfolio and use it and invest in that. And his argument is essentially, look, the Chinese people are here to be profitable as well, and we're not enemies. We're all trying to get rich together. And if we cooperate with them, we'll do better than if we fight with them. And that's probably a little bit more Western view, actually, of capitalism is, hey, we can all get rich together, versus maybe the traditional communist view. But the Chinese people, in many ways, are just so darn practical that could be what happens anyway.
Well, they have to not want to fight too. Like, we can't force them not to fight. If they want to take Taiwan, then they're kind of forcing our hand. And if they're gonna keep doing stuff like what they're doing in Venezuela or Iran, they're supporting. Let's just call it how it is. They're supporting very bad people. They're bankrolling them. They're sending drugs into the country. Like, at some point, that does have to be addressed. And we can want to negotiate and not want to decouple, but our desire to not want to decouple might be overridden by their desire to want to reunite China. So it's always heating up there, which skipping past my trades, which we can come back to, but I think this is really on topic here. We're only like 10 trading days into the year. And some of these defense tech stocks, space and energy, it's all ripping. It's absolutely crazy. Like, some people have screenshots being up 20, 30, 40, 50% this year. And Intel as well. I mean, we have the president of the United States quite literally picking winners for people. What do you have to say about this? I mean, this is not my space, but...
Not good. And Intel in particular, not good. They make crap chips. They have huge quality problems. And getting a bunch of cash from the government and NVIDIA is not a solution to your quality manufacturing problem.
But now they are partnering with NVIDIA, and it seems like the administration's going to have NVIDIA go over there and teach some people how to make some chips. Am I wrong about that?
You can't. It's an incredibly complicated process. It's not like they just go over there for 6 months and teach a few people how to do stuff. So you got to train up a whole workforce and remember, NVIDIA doesn't make the chips either. NVIDIA designs them. It's TSM that actually makes them. Right. So Intel's fabrication is their problem. Not necessarily. I mean, their design is been adequate where they would compete like with NVIDIA, right? But for CPUs, not for GPUs. Their GPUs have always been god awful. But yeah, now on their fabrication side though, they're having real quality problems. So I have yet to hear anybody speak to that in any way, shape, or form.
Well, how do you balance that, though, with the tailwind that is so obvious, which is the repatriation of the supply chain?
I'm not sure that is a winning strategy.
So how are you thinking about some of these names like MP or Red Cat, Ondas, Amcor, like a lot of these moves that were Chinese dominated 2-3 years ago, but now, the administration's trying to bring those back to the States. How are you thinking about those?
Well, this is the last thing I had on the topic, but I am a free trade guy. I know I said something about tariffs earlier, but I'm a free trade guy. Like, if you can get something done cheaper somewhere else, especially, and if you can get it done with better quality and cheaper somewhere else, then do that thing and concentrate on doing what you do better than anyone else. and we're not doing that. Like being a specialist is what's valuable. Being a generalist is not.
And that works great until you have like a national security concern.
Pump and purify your own water, chop your own wood to provide like light in your home and heat in your home. Like you could be a generalist and you could go, live off the grid and do everything yourself, make everything from scratch. You would have no time to relax. You'd be working 16-hour days, and you would be hungry and cold and tired all the time if you were able to survive. It's far better to let someone else do all the stuff that you don't know how to do, and who is doing it better, cheaper, and with higher quality, and you can pay them for a fraction of the time that they're doing that thing, and only for the amount that you need. There's from a national defense point of view, you need to be able to make the things you need. Sure. Or you need allies who can make the things you need, and then you can trade with them. Turns out that China may not be our ally in a lot of things, so they might not be the ideal trading partner for some things. But the idea that we want to reshore everything and turn people into factory workers, that's not. It's a populist It's a populist political winning strategy, but it's not a strategy that's going to result in the highest levels of
it's not as efficient,
right? Of prosperity. It's not going to result in prosperity.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because on one hand you want to balance the national security concerns that you have around certain industries, but on the other hand, corporations want to be efficient, which, I found it interesting that Trump was talking about the buybacks and dividends and executive pay around a lot of the defense companies. And it seems like he's reading right out of Sham Sankar's Defense Reformation when he talks about some of the stuff about reindustrializing faster and making sure that we're prioritizing national objectives rather than, shareholder creation. It marks definitely an interesting shift. It's fascinating.
Yeah, well, you won't be able to obtain high-level, super competent executives if you're not paying them very well. So
I think they'll get paid on the back end.
Figuring out that puzzle.
Yeah. In that same space, we've got a quote here from MIDI. Rocket Lab might be the best stock. Man, this thing's been on a tear. It closed at what, 92, somewhere around there?
Yeah, somewhere around there today. Rip my $90 covered calls that I sold when it was 70. I was like, oh yeah, 2 months should be fine. Rocket Lab had 2 50% drawdowns in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them. When people are like, oh, this stock is overpriced. All right, well, it took a 50% haircut. What do you want? Like, it took a 50% haircut. If you're a bear, this thing just retraced 50%. In the span of a month, it took 50%. How do you remain bearish? Like, your thesis was this thing is overvalued. Okay, well, it got cut in half, 50%. Is that the price that you had in mind now? Like 50%, was that enough? For most people, if you just said, okay, well, what price should it be? Well, I don't know, not this. Well, give me a price. Well, the half. Okay, well, it did that. Now it's taken off again. Well, what do you want? So my $90 covered call is probably going to get called away. So, but those are February 20th. So I just hope it doesn't go to like 130 by then.
Yeah, it seems like it could, though. I mean, it's on like a Palantir or Robinhood type run where
Price
you're getting
discovery.
Price discovery. You're getting deep money coming into the stock. Just thinking about what this could be in 5 and 10 years, they're still under $20 billion market cap. Actually, they might be past it now, but I mean, this is not a giant company. They're not even anywhere close to $100 billion.
It's going to be a $120 billion company in 10 years.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice. Just, I mean, if you just look at what the space sector is going to do, right? Like, they're again, Rocket Lab is they're building the scaffolding for massive space industry. Okay, there's other companies that are doing it too, but there's room for Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper. 50 billion-ish now. Okay, so like I not financial advice, I still look for a double here.
And even ASTS is at 34 billion now. They're at 95. They're racing each other over 100.
Yep.
What a move for these companies. And you know, it looks like
I don't know why I wasn't
a multi-year build out.
I don't know why I wasn't further in. You can't own everything. Like, you know, I had my big wins in Palantir and Robinhood and you know, very solid performance out of Google and Nvidia. So you can't win everything, but
no, you can't. And especially, you know,
and I have a lot of Rocket Lab. Like I have a lot. I have more than most people do. And I was buying it earlier than most people were. But I've also been buying into strength. So people are like, oh, what's your average? And I'm like, in the 40s.
Averages are overrated. At the end of the day, the name of the game is to take your money and to put it into moves that are going up. Yep. It does not matter what your average is. Other than taxes, your cost basis does not matter. I think people get into this like psychological trap of if I average up, then it's going to look like they're worried about their percentage being lower, or they're just worried about
I got one.
Their screenshots that they want to post on social media. Like, who cares about any of that? Like, you want to make money. If you think that the stock is at 65 and it's cheap and it's going to 100, buy the damn stock.
Yeah, I think the reason everyone wants to know what someone's average is so they can tell how long, like whether you're an OG in the stock,
right?
And that's all they care about. Well, if you haven't been, you know, you're talking about Rocket Lab like it's this great stock now, but your price average is only 60. Well, you haven't been a believer that long, so I'm not going to listen to you, or you're not cool, or I shouldn't, like, whatever. Okay, like, all right, well, you weren't the Swami who looked into the future and, you know, saw which stocks were going to go up and which ones weren't, so I'm not going to listen to you. Well, then you shouldn't be listening to anyone on YouTube telling you what stocks to buy. Got news for you.
I've got a good quote for you, and it's a relevant one. Charlie Munger has banger of quotes. If you guys want to go look up some of Charlie Munger's quotes,
he was great.
Some of the best. Okay, R.I.P. Charlie. And one of my favorites that he said is, people are trying to be smart. All I'm trying to do is not be idiotic, but it's harder than most people think.
That's true. That is true.
Any notes on ASTS? I know we were supposed to have Zocold on, guys. That's my bad. We were gonna do an ASTS deep dive. We're gonna try and get Zocold back on at some point, but I got sick. But yeah, any notes on ASTS, or do we want to put that one?
I don't have an ASTS position. I don't have an ASTS position. I'm just aware that it exists, and it's in some ways a competitor. It's not really a direct competitor with Rocket Lab because they don't do a lot of the same things, but kind of the community wants to fight more than the companies do. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, I don't own all of them. I know people who own all of it. I kind of wish I did. For as much as I spent time over the hot break looking at rockets, that's the other thing I did. I'm doing progress reviews for university rocket teams. And so reading all of their project details and trying to figure out what's going to be safe and what's not.
Well, Tess is throwing her hat in the ring here. She likes two other names a little bit better. Welcome, Tess. Thanks for joining. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, so we've mentioned a few of the stocks that have done really, really well, especially since the November lows. But let's talk about some of the names that have been beaten up a little bit, and it's mostly on the software side. So you've got Microsoft that's down about 20% since its pre-earnings or since its earnings release back in November. They popped all the way up to 555, and it's now sitting at 460. You've got Intuit now at or under $600, another 7% haircut today. For those who don't know, Intuit's a really high quality company with a really deep moat, and even they're getting punched in the teeth a little bit. Adobe was traded down to almost $300 today. Salesforce is still stuck in the mud. Shopify was down 6% today, and Duolingo is finding new all-time lows in the 150s. Is there anything really to take away here from the software weakness, or is this just a moment in time? Is this AI? Is this because of Claude? What do we think?
Well, in retrospect, if it's due to Claude, then that's a tool that software companies can use if they're not using it, which means they have room for upside if they start using it. I don't think Claude is going to just compete the entire software sector away, right?
Right.
Microsoft is sensitive to the, or it's subject rather to the sentiment on OpenAI, and I really think since Google ripped so hard, and people are realizing that Gemini via the search is coming after ChatGPT hard, that Microsoft, I mean, you could see a future where ChatGPT doesn't work, where OpenAI doesn't work, and Microsoft has to take a huge write down.
Yeah, and Satya mentioned a few months back, I mean, every time that someone uses ChatGPT, Microsoft gets paid from that. I'm not sure how that works under the hood because they don't disclose
With what money?
With what money?
With Microsoft's own money. Microsoft with their own money.
Now, the idea is eventually they're going to monetize that, and they're going to have agentic shopping and all these other things.
That doesn't move the needle. That doesn't move the world forward. Just figuring out another way. I had a post this morning on it, in the group chat. I don't remember specifically what it was. Let me pull it up. But it was like, yeah. So I mean, are we just out to hurry up and figure out a new way to serve ads? Like that's like it's just another ad serving tool that doesn't do anything for humanity. Sorry, if that's OpenAI's mission, that doesn't do anything for anyone.
Economically, though, I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to lower the friction to get you across the cart and just to get to buy the product a little bit easier. The more you can reduce that friction, the higher your conversion can be, which means the higher ad prices you can actually charge, right?
Yeah. But OpenAI doesn't know anything about selling ads.
Not yet, they don't. I think they'll learn. I'm not a doomsdayer on OpenAI, although I've been definitely outspoken on some of their weaknesses. But hey, that would work out great for me if OpenAI falls on their face in mud. I'm still sitting at 46% Google, and awesome. I got a lot of flack online, back in November and December about Google's top that's not going higher. This train keeps on rolling.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's not far from getting in price. It's all-time highs now, right? So it's in price discovery as well.
Sure is. Something that's not at all-time highs. We can dig into my trades a little bit. So I was looking really intensely at Netflix, and I built my position out really, really fast over the course of December and January, and I did a total U-turn on it. And the U-turn was based on a few things that I've seen in other companies that I like a little bit more. But it was
sorry, U-turn meaning you built a position and now you've dumped it, or
I dumped it. I dumped it all.
Okay.
So I built out about a 6% position. I built it in about 4 or 5 different purchases.
Yeah, I remember when you were buying
pretty quick. And I still like it as a long-term idea for the value that's going to be unlocked from the Warner Brothers vault, right? So like all of that still plays. What I worried about was that Trump is going to get vindictive and target them because they've been one of the most woke companies. And that existed when I was buying it too. But the fact that Paramount is still continuing makes me a little bit nervous that like, what do they know that I don't? And could this be dead money for the next year? Trump could easily just slow down the legal process of them actually buying this company and really just make it quite painful for Netflix. They could just add hoop after hoop after hoop, like red tape. And he's shown the personality to, like, let's not put it past him, right? Like, he knows who his enemies are, and he makes them pay when he gets the opportunity to do so. But more so than that, I really wanted to buy some other companies. So the first one that I'm not going to talk about that much, just because it's not that interesting to most people, is Comfort Systems USA. Fix. They do HVAC, electrical, and building construction. And they're getting a lot of revenue growth from data center build out. So if you think tradespeople are going to be valuable over the next 5-10 years of AI build out, I would look into that. I have some posts on X for Comfort Systems USA, again, ticker symbol FIX. But where I spent most of this money was on a company that is my license plate. I have not bought any shares of the company in the last 4 years. And I was actually a huge net seller of the company in 24 and 25. I bought more Palantir.
There we go.
And so the reason behind this is, yes, they are at nosebleed valuations. But if you actually extrapolate out the numbers of what their growth is and assume some slight acceleration for the next year, and that revenue growth stabilizing over time, they can grow into the valuation. As crazy as it might seem, if you look far enough out, you are buying what could be a cheap company 9-10 years from now. So some of the pieces of evidence that we've seen, and this gets a little bit into current events, so stay with me now. ICE, Venezuela, Iran, IRS, Fannie Mae, Greenland. Like, we don't know what's happening with Greenland yet, but all of this stuff is predicated on Palantir software kicking ass, and it has been. If you look at some of these or institutions and businesses that have been using Palantir, the effectiveness of it continues to grow, and it's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And they have a West Wing that's behind them. And now they have the Fortune 500 that knows just how valuable the software is. So it's not a giant position for me, but I did add to it. I added about 50% to my position. So it's now sitting at a 9% position for me. So it's not a small position, but I sleep like a baby at night, despite how stupid it sounds of having 100 price to sales. Like, if you're growing your revenue 70% a year, it only takes a few years for you to quickly knock that down back to a 25 PS.
And think about the total TAM that they are not servicing.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they don't have the bandwidth to sign up those people as customers. Like, it's, like, you can use Salesforce all day long, or you can use ServiceNow or whatever, or Snowflake, until Palantir finally calls you back.
And here's the other thing too,
right? Because you called them, they just didn't call you back, so you had to pick somebody else as your provider, right?
Right.
When Palantir finally calls you back, that's when you,
They were literally sending away customers because they could not onboard new customers fast enough. So at
Yeah.
$400 billion market cap, if like this is going to be a $1 trillion company. Again, guys, not financial advice. I don't know when they're going to be $1 trillion, but this company is going to be $1 trillion. And if you look at it, not necessarily just from the numbers of earnings in a traditional metric way, but think about what is actually moving the needle in terms of power for the United States and the West versus other companies. Palantir has become, in the last 6 to 9 months, one of, if not the most important software company in the world. When Karp talked about this in 23 and
Mhm.
24, like people laughed at him and said, "What are you talking about? Microsoft is way more important." And that is totally flipped on its head. And people are actually starting to look at Microsoft in a totally different way, where like Copilot is floundering and like they're almost getting
Go back.
reduced down to like a licensing platform for OpenAI. And you compare that to the initiatives and actions that the United States has taken in a multitude of different arenas, whether that be catching fraud in Minnesota, coming after California next on the way. You know, there's laws out there that there are finder's fees that if you find fraud and that money gets returned to the United States government, that the finder actually gets a significant chunk of that revenue. Can you imagine what would happen if they find $100 billion of fraud in California and say even $30 billion of that gets returned back to the taxpayer? If Palantir
That's
gets
huge.
even a slice of that, like
Yep.
they're going to destroy the street consensus. So that's my thoughts on Palantir, just seeing what's coming down the pipe. And
Well, I
um,
mean, it's trading. It's not like it's at all-time high right now either. Like, I mean, like I said with Rocket Lab having two 50% drawdowns in 2025. Um, we're off of we had Palantir may have had the second greatest for a while. They had the greatest earnings report in history until Nvidia had theirs. um, so yeah, so Palantir had this earnings report come out, and the stock went straight. And so that day it had its all-time high, and it went straight down over three. And in 3 weeks, it was trading at 30% of the day that it released the greatest earnings report in history. And it's gone up, bounced down from 200, rejected at 200, and it's been just kind of range bound in this like 160 to 190 range. So I feel like this is a coiling, and this is your chance to accumulate.
do you remember after earnings when they popped to, what was it, 206? And everybody who knows the company felt that 200 plus was justified. And then we saw it drop below 170, and it just didn't quite make any sense. And here's another good point that Tess brings up. What happens when Europe gets their head out of their ass and realizes that Russia has been aggressing for 2 decades straight? Like eventually they're gonna have to do something about it. And I know that's also part of the thesis with nat gas exporters. But short of Europe laying down and taking their beating, like eventually this is a solution that they're gonna have to buy.
Yeah, I'm the same, Tess. Not selling even though people think I'm overweight. Yeah, people look at my port. It's roughly 35, somewhere between 35 and 40%. They tell me I'm overweight. I'm carrying way too much risk. But if it's in Palantir, I'm fine with it, because I know that is not going. It's not going to 30. It's going to go to 330, not 30. It's like you said it earlier in the conversation. It's the most important. It's currently the most important software company in the world, or at the very least, it makes the most important software.
Well, and it's being used in the most important projects in the
Yep.
world. One of the other things that I thought was really important was the headline around Palantir working with the government to actually install a data cloud that's specifically earmarked just for government use cases. And Palantir is going to be right on the inside track of that. And, we're seeing right now in the government that there is a really, really deep moat around, like, if you can get your foot into the door to get government money, it's really, really hard for someone to take that money away from you, even if you're fraudulent. So you can only imagine how sticky that moat is when you're a legitimate business providing indescribable value.
Yep.
I think the next thing we had, did you have anything else on that before we jump to our favorite fintech? Maybe not your favorite fintech because you're 30% hood.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, it's been your favorite at some point, right? It's been everybody's favorite at some point. I mean, I made a lot of money with them. I got no hate for them. I just don't own them right now.
So you don't own any SoFi?
Nope.
Okay.
My brother owns a whole bunch, though. Oh, by the way, shout out to Major Scott. Just got promoted yesterday to Major in the Air Force.
All right.
I sent him the Major Payne meme, like where the kid like doing the salute, making fun of him. I was like, and I texted my brother, so I have literally been waiting 20 years to send you this meme.
That's awesome.
Because he went in 2006.
Do you annoy him with the bit from How I Met Your Mother, where anytime the word major, general, or anything gets said, you do the salute? Like, so in conversation, you'd say, "Oh, that's a major headache," and you'd say, "Major headache."
Okay.
Stupid joke. Anyways, we'll move on to SoFi. So SoFi, some interesting activity. For those who don't know, SoFi was underwritten by two different banks when they did their share offering back in December. It was Bank of America and Goldman Sachs. And then about 30 days later, after that offering was done at $27.50, both of those same banks that just underwrote the offering decided to downgrade SoFi, resulting in a 10% down day. I don't know, Dougie, is Wall Street rigged?
I mean, is SoFi their competitor? And then they're saying, hey, don't buy our competitor. They're not very good.
Yeah, McDonald's downgrades Burger King.
Exactly, yeah. Coke downgrades Pepsi. Shocker. Shocker. Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of things going for the company still. I just don't like. Why did they downgrade him? Because of credit? Because of the 10% cap on credit cards? Like that doesn't seem to me. Like it sounded like Noto was fine with it because he's like, well, maybe people will get personal loans then because they won't be able to get credit cards.
So these downgrades actually came prior to that 10% announcement.
Okay.
And one of the things that was funny is they, at least one of the banks had mentioned that, raising capital was a source of weakness. And I just thought that was really funny, seeing as how they were also involved in the raise.
Like y'all were the ones who put the capital in. What you mad about, bro? It's your capital.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like we've seen this situation with SoFi just so many times that like experienced SoFi holders were slamming the buy button on this one because it just feels so maniped.
Yep. Yeah, you're slamming the buy button on it because you're like, oh, this thing is ready to explode, and then bam, down 10% day.
Mm-hmm.
You get rugged somehow on something you think is headed straight up.
Well, so I actually went out and added more options to my SoFi position when on that day. So when it got downgraded and dropped down to $26 even.
Yeah. Oh, hey, look, I do have position. I have.
Oh my gosh, you have so much money coming out of your ears that you don't even know what you own. That's what you have.
I have 5 leaps for June 2027
Okay.
at the
I've
$20
got
strike price.
I've got some June 28s at 15, 20, 25, 30. So about 25% of my position is leaps at this point.
Sorry, brother. Yeah, I never thought I would like say this, but $5,000 to me is kind of, I'm like I said it, like it's like finding $20 in your coat pocket now.
That's a good problem though. Like that's a good way to be.
And I know you live in Arizona. It's like well, I guess y'all actually do get cold because you're in the desert. But in Houston, we get like 3 weeks of winter all year.
Uh-huh.
So you get out your coat that you haven't seen since. Oh, there's a $20 bill in my pocket. Okay. No, actually, no lie. I had like $300 last week, so like in a coat pocket. I like went to put on the coat I hadn't worn in a while. $300 in the pocket. I was like,
nice.
That's where that money went. Okay.
Easy. Life is easy, dude.
Yeah.
You mentioned it, so let's talk about it. 10% credit card cap. I'll let you kick us off.
Oh my God. This is where
Do you need a minute? Do you want me to kick it off?
I do not intend to get political, but y'all, Donald Trump is a Democrat. He always has been, and he always will be, because this is how Democrats think. They just think, see problem,
price cap,
fix that problem. Don't look at the system that created it. Just address that problem so that I get votes. See problem, find pain, fix that particular source of pain, ignore a problem, ignore a systemic problem. Right? It's like you might have like a cancer patient who has nausea, and so instead of like putting them in chemotherapy and start treating the cancer, you give them some Pepto-Bismol. Okay.
Well, would you describe it as a Democrat policy because it's a price cap, or would you just call it a populist policy because it's like?
Yeah, it's both. It's both.
Okay.
Dang, you're socialist. So what happened? And then you do these things without considering the long-term consequences, right? And the president's not an idiot. I mean, he's, you can say what you like, but he was a moderately successful real estate developer, construction mogul. Whether you think he was good at that or not, he actually did it. The buildings are there. There's proof of them, right? It's amazing to me that he doesn't think, 3 steps down the road. Okay, what happens when I do that? Okay, well, people's bills go down. What else happens? Oh, they can't get credit cards anymore because the risk is gone.
But if he's talking to the populist for midterms, do you think that will the long-term effects, which I want to talk about, will those long-term effects even matter by the time midterms come up? And B, do most voters even recognize what second-order effects that would cause? No. I don't think so.
No, the pain they experience later, they blame on whoever the politician is in charge at the time.
Correct. Just like we saw with inflation, right? The Biden administration created all the inflation, and now everyone wants to say things are expensive when Trump is the president.
Right. Yeah. Trump's not looking at affordability. It's like, well, he didn't create this problem. So, it's going to take more than 9 months to fix, people. Like, you've created a generational catastrophe, and it's going to take a while to get it under control. By the way, there's a future chit chat when we talk about the Fed, but.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mark it down. So we mentioned some long-term effects of the credit card caps. So you're going to have people having less credit. And I know Speaker Mike Johnson mentioned a few things. He was careful with his words not to upset the commander in chief, but he did mention you're just going to have anyone under like a 700 FICO not going to be able to get credit. You're going to have an addition of monthly and annual maintenance fees on credit cards. Like, these banks aren't stupid. They're not going to just like lose out on that revenue. They're going to find other ways to generate revenue, whether that's through, fees, reduction of credit card rewards, or if they're just a lot tighter in their credit box with who they're actually giving money out to. And we know it's not like an
The first
education
step
or
in making money
disclosure
is
issue.
don't lose money.
Yeah,
right?
don't lose
So
money.
the first thing they're going to do is limit their losses.
Yeah, so you can make the credit line smaller, or you can simply just like not give credit to people who aren't premium anymore. So now if you have a 688 and you're short on money, instead of getting a credit card, now you might actually have to go to a payday lender or an auto title lender, which is actually just going to be way more than a credit card company anyways. So you can see where I'm leaning on this issue, because I feel very strongly. Like, I've sold credit cards before. In college, I worked for a bank for a few years. I've sold credit cards, and I was always very upfront with everybody. Here's how to use it. Here's how not to get charged interest. And one of the things that's on the disclosures, it's the biggest thing on the disclosure, is the APR. It's the biggest number on the page, and there's lots of signatures that have to be done before you can actually get it. And there's underwriting involved in that. So I know the process really well. It's not really an education issue if every single month on the statement it tells you exactly how many dollars were charged in interest. So this whole idea that the banks are ripping people off, I don't really see it, because people can look at their statements, and it's one click away, and there's not really an excuse for it anymore with OpenAI and GPT. You can simply Google these things and get your financial education. It's right at your fingertips. But I did want to call out just one last thing here before I toss it back to you. A lot of people do not understand that Visa and MasterCard are not the one making interest on this. So when you get a credit card, the issuing bank is the one getting that net interest income on that 25 or 30% or whatever is being charged. Now, Visa, MasterCard, they still make money on transaction volume and total payment volume that's actually going through their network. But it's not Visa and MasterCard who are getting that interest. So I just wanted to make that clear to anyone who wasn't aware of that.
No, I mean, hey, the hack you have right now is if you aren't paying off your credit card every month and you have a margin account, take the margin, pay the 5 or 6% interest to Robinhood or whatever, and pay off the 30. Not financial advice, and pay off the 30% interest at your credit card. Do it today.
And I agree with Melanie here. I know a few states and maybe even cities have gotten this into their curriculum. Melanie's actually a teacher. She agrees with this. My fiance, she's a teacher. She also agrees with that sentiment. We've talked about that before.
I agree with it.
I'm a financial teacher of sorts. I work in the financial space, and I definitely wish that was implemented within the curriculum. But some people, they believe in the theory that it's intentionally not part of the curriculum, which is a whole nother discussion.
100%. Even in like mathematics classes, there's like very little time. I mean, you do learn kind of some of the financial formulas, but that's all you really do. Like, you don't really learn the stuff. But yeah.
As I'm looking through the notes here, I forgot to mention.
So hold on. One last point to wrap this up. So the second order effect we said is that credit will be limited. Well, what's the third order effect on that? What happens when people don't have credit? Easy credit. They
spend less. Yeah.
So there goes your economy in consumer.
Maybe, but do we really want that much of the economy running on monthly credit anyways? Like revolving credit? Like, how much consumer spending should be on revolving credit?
Well, credit allows you to say, I am going to buy the lifestyle now that I have to work 30 or 40 years for, right? And instead of waiting until I'm 60, I'm because of the credit system in the United States, I'm able to live the life that it takes a full career to be able to afford, but I'm able to live that lifestyle or have a lot of those elements of that lifestyle now, right? So all it's going to do is just slow consumer spending, and there goes all your inflation. I don't know if that's good inflation or bad inflation that's down to that might be a fourth order effect. Starts getting hard to predict, but certainly consumer spending grinding to a halt when they don't have access to credit, it seems most likely, because most people don't pay off their credit card every month.
Now, we also don't know what the form of this is going to look like. This could be a starting point in negotiation for what ultimately ends up looking different by the time we cross the finish line. There's not a law in place, and the president doesn't have the power to just say, I'm going to cap this. Like there does have to be some legislating that goes on here. So, this could look very, very different 2 or 3 months from now. So just keep that in mind. But one thing I was going to mention is when I was talking about buying Palantir, I didn't mention one of the biggest parts about it, the 50% increase the Department of War that the administration wants to do. That's definitely a huge factor, because one of the things that CARP has been pounding the table on was, why is less than 1% of our DoD budget allocated to software? So, you can only imagine if they increase it by 20, 30, 40, 50%, how much of that ends up in the hands of software companies and cybersecurity relative to hardware. Sorry to circle back on that, but I felt it was too important not to mention.
No, it's a great point. And that's why the president was hammering those defense execs, because he says, look, we have a massive basically ammunition problem. Like, if we go to war with China, we're going to be out of ammunition in the first week. Okay. Yes, we do have hypersonic missiles. They cost like $200 million a piece because we only built 50 of them. Okay. So we can't recognize any economics of scale until we start mass producing these things, but we're not going to start mass producing these things until, given current political environment, until it's too late. So that's why a company like Anduril fits such a great niche, is because they're basically building weapons and then saying, hey, we're running a Walmart over here, Defense Department, come buy whatever you want off the shelf. Like, we're building what we think is cool. Y'all figure out how you want to use it.
Palmer also said that they're building stuff. He said if China were to invade Taiwan, he said you're going to see a lot of Anduril products flying off the shelf, which I find really interesting that he's building specifically, it seems like, for that theater.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's building for air, land, and sea. So, I mean, he can cover you wherever you're at. Yeah. So that's a super cool company. Disclosure, I'm invested in it. Funnily enough, I do not recommend most people anticipate that IPO. It is not a stock for most investors. I know a lot of people are using Kraken Robotics as a proxy for Anduril, but even after Anduril IPOs, I cannot recommend most investors.
Well, what are you going to do with yours? Are you just going to hold it and forget it's there and blink? Okay. And then 20 years from now, you
go to the shareholder meetings.
Okay. That makes sense. Did you want to jump into the Fed, the war at the Fed, the $2.5 billion of building renovations?
Okay, so yeah.
Obviously, they screwed the pooch in 2022 and
whether
23.
or not there's any real fraud going on there. Okay. Second of all, I'm sure there's real fraud going on there because they're working with trade unions in Washington, D.C. Okay. and Trump knows there's fraud going on there because he worked with trade unions in New York. Okay. He understands the grift that goes on and the money you have to move around under the table. So but it's not like Powell's the guy out there like trying to get the backroom deals. He's hired project managers to run this crap for him. You know, he's signed off on the master service agreements with the contractors to do it. I mean, he's not. I mean, he can go put on a hard hat and take it toward the president, but he's not inspecting this like it's his.
Still, $2 billion for a renovation. It's kind of extreme.
It does seem rather extreme. But you're still only like. Doesn't he have a stressful enough job that we also somehow made him a construction manager? Like, I don't know.
Well, what's he trying to get out?
I got interviewed by the Wall Street Journal asking about retail's reaction.
You did?
Yep.
Ooh, Dougie made it. Look at him go. Wall Street Journal. I was wondering why the view count was higher tonight.
Yeah, if you have a subscription there, you can go look it up. It was like retail's response to Jerome Powell, or retail the response to Jerome Powell, which I did not do. But yeah, it was like a 45-minute interview, and you get like 2 quotes, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and one of them was like, that didn't seem like it was very in character for him to go firing back against the president. And then I guess today we found out the president that he didn't even know that was happening. Yeah. So.
Well, what do you think he's trying to accomplish here, though? Like
voters. He's trying to get
Powell's out of here in May, so like the clock is ticking, and we already think that he's not going to give us a cut before May.
DJP is a vindictive guy, and he's showing the next guy. This isn't about Jay Powell anymore. This is about the next guy. Because remember, he appointed Jay Powell too.
Right? It's about sending a message.
Yeah, it's about sending a message to the next guy. Get on board with what I'm doing. My particular take on why we have an unelected person able to run monetary policy in the United States is its own topic that I've gone through many times, and agree with it or disagree with it. I don't think it serves the American people if the monetary policy that is being managed specifically to counter the other trade and economic policy of the elected official. I just think, let's get everybody row in the same direction, pull on the same side of the rope. Oh yeah, and if one of these people is elected and the other one's not, we probably should defer to whichever person is elected.
Right. Yeah.
Tessa's like, all right, he's ranting again. I'm closing my eyes.
Well, I haven't been the biggest fan of some of the Fed chair people, because Yellen came out, Bernanke came out, Greenspan came out, and their hair's on fire. Independence of the Fed. But it's like, first of all, no one elects you guys, like you just mentioned. Second of all, those in the know, like, there's a lot of people who just want to get rid of the organization entirely because there's not that accountability layer. And then the third is all three of those people, Bernanke, Yellen, and Greenspan, had massive mistakes during their own tenure. And Jay Powell was not an exception to that. Like, Greenspan fueled a lot of the bubble. You had Bernanke, who, was asleep at the wheel during the great financial crisis. You had Janet Yellen issue a bunch of short-term debt that put us in the spot that Jay Powell had to raise rates so fast in 2022 because Yellen was over at Treasury issuing a bunch of short-term debt at lows, knowing that inflation was coming on the way because M2 money supply expanded like a stock chart of NVIDIA. The M2 money supply went up 50% in 3 years. And that was Jay Powell also being asleep at the wheel as the Fed chair. And these guys have the nerve to like throw rock in a glass house after massively messing up their job responsibilities. And yeah, Trump has the right to be pissed, but if they actually did waste $2 billion on a building, they should also be held accountable for that. So I can kind of see it both ways.
Look, ultimately the problem is the Fed was created in response to a financial crisis, and all it has done is cause financial crises and then get awarded more power
to solve the problems that they create.
To solve the problems that they created. And they're not elected. And they don't have, so if they're unelected, if they're an elected official, that means the people are the boss. If they're unelected, that means the chief executive is their boss, except wait, he can't fire, so he's not their boss. So Jay Powell has no boss. So he's an unelected bureaucrat who cannot be fired. That's a dictator.
When you guys are reading Dougie's obituary, remember this moment. Okay, he's gonna get that convertible ride in Dallas.
That is a dictator.
For those who don't know, one of the things that JFK said before he got shot was he wanted to end the Fed. So that's one thing that I'll just mention there.
Okay, so yeah, so there's my rant. So what I told the reporter though is, look, the guy had a lot of problems. He had certainly the most volatile president to deal with. He had whipsaw political stews he had to live in both directions, and he had a global pandemic to deal with. Like, I mean, now granted, you might be able to say everybody has problems, but I don't love the guy. Why did he achieve cult status? Because that's the time we live in, right? Trust me, Jay Powell, he's seen the memes of him with the money gun and the sunglasses, right? Money printer go burr. He's seen the memes. If he didn't know how to look for them, he's got kids and grandkids who would have showed it to him. Okay, he's seen them. He's well aware. But you know, his just ability to get up in front of the media time after time after time and just talk to them like he's a grown up, but also talking like he knows retail is listening, is I think the reason that retail investors actually think of him fondly, because he actually acknowledged the existence of retail in the ways that previous Fed presidents tended to ignore retail investors.
See, maybe I'm on the skinny side of this then, because I actually don't like Jay Powell's done fine, but he definitely missed the mark.
He's a B minus, right?
I have to drop him into C, because missing inflation when it was so obvious that it was happening in 2021 with how much money they dumped into the market. And then, you know, they told him that inflation was...
That's why I give him a B. It's like grading on a curve.
The class is easy to pass, but you know, in 2021 it was really obvious that inflation was happening. All the signals were there: PPP, CPI, or PPI, CPI, and the amount of money that was just helicoptered into retail and into consumer discretionary and all these areas that, like, I mean, look at Peloton. Peloton became what, a $90 billion company, and we had all these shit coins that were ripping. We had NFTs that never made any sense. And then he just said inflation is transitory. And he repeated it for month after month after month. And it went on for quite some time, to the point that Stanley Druckenmiller finally said, hey, what are we doing here? Like, we haven't printed this much money since war. Like, our debt to GDP is going nuts.
Yeah. But no one lets us. Yeah, but that June says it right. Highlight that comment. He actually talks to us.
And use swear words. What did he say? Close the fucking door.
Yeah.
That was a great moment. Close the fucking door. That's good.
And so I think that's why retail. Plus, he also inflated a bunch of stuff. A bunch of people made money on. Like, Peloton went that high, and a lot of people had cheap Peloton shares and sold them all that way up. A lot of people had cheap GameStop shares and made a lot of money.
And any thoughts on this one, Air Test Systems? I know Roy likes this one. If you guys are curious about this name, go check out some of Roy's videos. I have done next to zero research on this one.
I didn't even know that was a stock ticker.
Yeah, my understanding is that they do test systems for chips. So the chip comes out the fab, and they sell the test system that you put the chip in to make sure the quality assurance is in good shape. It's under, I believe, it's still under $1 billion market cap.
So, well, so if it's a penny stock, I probably would just prefer not discuss it.
Okay, I know Roy's discussed it, so it's not like
Yeah,
it's
no, check out Roy's channel. He's
check
a
out
smart
Roy's
guy.
channel.
I'm still waiting for him to join the Houston Lunch Club. Haven't been able to catch him.
He's busy, man. He's doing a PhD.
Yeah, I know.
He said it's his last semester. Shout out Roy, man. He's a good guy.
Shout out Roy. Seems like a really good guy. I'm looking forward to meeting him one of these days.
Any thoughts on OSS?
Nope.
I got nothing.
People like it, including Amit. I can't be in everything. I was like, okay, like I wish I had more of what I have. I'm not looking to buy more things. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
I want more Palantir. I want more Hood. I want more Zeta. I want more Baidu. I want more D-Wave. I want more Rocket Lab.
Concentration into conviction.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I don't have my eyes open for new opportunities. I just, I would love if we could have like a little community ETF almost, and I could just like put that in there and then let the community source stuff in and out all day long, and I would just like allocate a certain percentage to that and like let that run. But then I don't have to do like a deep dive on every single thing that goes in it, right? I mean, to learn all these companies, I mean, there's such low market cap, but are you not better served spending all the time you would spend trying to learn one-stop systems? Would you not be better served trying to learn like Google Cloud?
I mean, it depends how much alpha there is, right? So Stock Talk, check out his channel if you're curious about OSS. But he's been finding some of these names like HII, the shipbuilder, OSS. He found Amcor. He's also been big on KTOS, Kratos Defense. He's just been drilling these ones. I mean, one after the next, and he's a full-time researcher, so he's playing a little bit different game than those of us who work 40 plus hours a week. But I mean, there's definitely something to be said about some of these lesser known names that if you get in before the big wave of money shows up, you can definitely do really well.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, people like Siege too.
Yep.
Siege is my guy. But RCAT, like I've been in and out of RCAT before it took off. I bought a small position in RCAT when Aunt Nancy was in it.
Aunt Nancy.
We're losing her. Yep. The greatest investor in history.
When is she done? Is it this November or sorry, January? Like in 12 months from now, or is it in 28?
I mean, well, she can retire anytime she wants, but like if she intends to fill out her entire, then yeah, it would be next January when the next Congress is seated.
Did you want to transition to book club corner?
Did you have a chance to read that? You sent it to me.
Yeah. I read the book like a year ago.
Oh, okay. I did the audiobook of it. So, and then like I was done, and I was like, oh man, audiobooking for the purposes of a podcast can be different because like you listen to it, so you hear all the ideas, but you can't like go back and reference like, oh, that was a paragraph I really like that point. Let me make a note of that. So, yeah, this was rather eye-opening though. I'll recommend it. to folks as well.
So this is one that I actually heard about from Bill Gurley, and Bill Gurley is a free trade guy. And this book borrows some ideas from Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, and to try and give the idea of the book. Obviously, reading the book is different than the 60-second summary I'm going to give, but the idea is we all have specialized skills that we can use that we're really good at, and it's way more efficient for me to do financial work and Dougie to do oil work, and then we trade the product of our labor rather than me spending 50% of my time doing financial work and 50% of my time trying to find oil and Dougie doing the same thing. It's just way more efficient if you're able to source those things locally. So like a good example is bananas in certain countries, right? Like we can't really produce bananas in Ohio at nearly the same rate that you could in South America. So what you do is, what can you produce in Ohio? You can produce corn and soybeans. You trade those with the countries that can produce bananas, and it works out better for everybody, and it creates wealth. That's one of the things that's actually unique to humans, and why we have populated the entire world and are considered the top species of Earth, is because we have that ability to trade and negotiate and work out a deal that sort of works better as a collective. Not to use that word, I know that's a hot button word right now, but if you're able to trade your strengths for something that might be a weakness, then it ends up working out better for everybody, and that's how wealth can grow, through that trade and specialization of labor.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, he also makes a great case for trade. Some of his arguments got a little too esoteric, and I feel he's just making the argument for the sake of making an argument on stuff that I thought was ended up being a little silly. Like, oh, hey, it's good that that global warming is happening because we'll be able to do new things with a warmer climate. And I'm like, okay,
that's a stretch.
Okay, that's a stretch. But don't get it twisted. Most of the argument is good. It's just like, well, you'd actually be better off if you'd left that out.
Now, some of the things that I really like that he said in there is, a lot of people have this idea that the world is consistently getting worse in some way just because they're getting more exposed to it. But he actually shed some good light on certain things like the cost of energy. So if you look at what access the average person, just like across the entire world, so average Indian, average Chinese, average European, average American, 100 years ago, the quality of life improvement is unbelievable. Like what our great grandparents had to deal with versus what we take for granted nowadays is insane. We are all streaming on the internet right now with virtually free electricity, and it's available at our fingertips. And we all have devices that can easily connect to the internet. It's affordable to nearly everybody.
We all have the lights on at night.
At night, you used to have to use a candle.
And that candle would cost you like half a week's wages, or it would be like in like maybe not half a week, but it would cost you like a day's wage to burn that one candle.
Yeah, it was a luxury to have light at night, and now it's something that we all just take for granted, even if you're on EBT. Like the way that the world has changed.
You flip the switch, you expect the lights to come on.
Exactly.
And you don't even think about what goes in to making it happen. You don't have to worry about getting the fuel or getting the candle or whether it's going to burn your house down. You just hit the switch.
And all that is because of that specialization of labor and being able to mass produce at scale electricity, being able to produce those watts, having skilled tradesmen run wire throughout the entire city that you live in. I mean, it's really quite incredible how far we've come. And I think zooming out and looking back a little bit can help shed some perspective on that. There's a lot of good lessons in this book. There's not a discount code. I'm not getting paid to talk about this book, neither is Dougie. But it is something that we wanted to talk about a little bit more regularly on the show about like what we're reading, some interesting thoughts from other authors, and just sharing some of those perspectives and wisdom.
Yeah, I'm trying to do one like financial or business book per month.
What's the next one?
Oh man. Let's see. I gotta look at my phone. I bought it. I don't remember what it's called. I'm doing this.
We all know it's 0 to 1. You haven't read it yet. We all know.
Hey, look, my phone finally started. Text messages finally started going off. I've been no Verizon all day.
You got affected by it?
Yeah. Okay. So it's called Against the Gods. It may not be so much business and math, but it's the story of risk.
Okay. Do you know anything about it just yet, or?
I'll just read the blurb. It's a unique exploration of the role of risk in our society. Peter Bernstein argues the notion of bringing risk under control is one of the central ideas that distinguishes modern times from the distant past. Against the Gods chronicles the remarkable intellectual adventure that liberated humanity from oracles and soothsayers by means of powerful tools of risk management. So yeah, it's from 1996, but it was it's a Business Week New York Times bestseller.
Okay, so he wrote that book and nobody listened in 2000 or 2008.
Yeah. Well, it's doubly interesting to me because professionally, what I do is really manage. A lot of what I do is managing risk. So we will do inspections on equipment that's in the pipeline or in the refinery, but we will spend more money, for example, on something that is either very old and more susceptible to damage, or something that has like a higher consequence, like this thing could actually blow up or something, right, and cause a giant fire and kill a bunch of people, or it has a chemical that could really, really impact the surrounding area because it would vaporize and then get into the water supply or something like that, right? But then we also might have the same piece of equipment and all it does is hold high pressure air, right? So while they may both be made out of the same material, have the same pressures and temperatures, so they both kind of have the same physical risk, because of what one of them has in it, it could do a lot more damage, right? So we'll spend, or at least the old way was, okay, you just inspect them the same because they're exactly the same thing. Well, kind of the new way of managing risk is saying, okay, well, we're going to take 90% of the money we would have spent to inspect both of these vessels or these pipes or whatever, and we're going to inspect the one that could blow up and hurt a bunch of people. And the thing that's air, well, if it wrecks too, well, then we have a problem with our pressurized air somewhere. But we can handle that in a different way. But we're gonna spend our resources where they matter most. And so there's a lot of calculus that goes into figuring out these risk-based matrices. And so like the first certification I have for risk-based management is like the code book is like this thick, right? And that's for like how to like be a risk-based inspector. But then the actual code that it always references is like yay thick. For like all the math and calculations and everything on the back end, right? So so I'm interested in learning about risk and risk management.
Well, it's definitely an interesting topic. One phrase when I underwrote insurance was an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And, without fault, when I was underwriting Colorado, we had all these seasonals up in Aspen and
Mhm.
Telluride or
I have
Vale.
pipelines up there. I'm familiar.
Yeah. So what would happen is a lot of people would have a seasonal there, and they would live in Texas or California or Florida, and they would snowbird there. That would be like their ski in, ski out. And we would require automatic water shutoffs because their pipes would freeze. If there's no one there at home, like the house would get cold enough, the pipes would freeze and burst. So we would mandate that they install a $5,000 automatic water shutoff. That if the pipes break, the water turns off. And that $5,000, it seems pricey, but water losses could be 300, 400, $700,000. That $5,000 doesn't look so stupid now. It actually looks like a really good use of money. So if you guys are homeowners, I mean that's something you can definitely look into if you live in a cold area with a house that is not full time. But that's just one
Well,
example of how spending
that's
a little bit of
part of
money
the
up
problem
front.
Russia has when they invaded Ukraine and all the U.S. Energy people pulled out that knew how to maintain all their wells in their permafrost. I mean, all that stuff got capped as far as we know, and they probably all got broke because of the thermal cycling. And as a result, all those wells are offline,
Which
probably for
ones?
the Russian oil wells that are in the north that are embedded in the permafrost where they had to drill through the permafrost.
Okay.
All the U.S. companies had to leave, and they're the ones with all the expertise on managing all that equipment and operating it in the cold, and dealing with the thermal cycles. Well, once the permafrost gets in there, it shuts off that wellhead, and you're not getting back in there again.
Speaking of local intricacies of oil drilling, and I'm not sure if you can talk about it at all. Are there any thoughts on Venezuela? I heard some talk about the oil being a different type and that it's a little bit thicker, maybe a different refinement process. Are
Yeah,
you, are you able to talk about that at all?
a little bit. I'm not really a petroleum engineer guy. I'm like I said, I'm more of an inspection guy, and then I just make sure that we keep all the product inside the pipes and inside the pressure vessels. That's my job.
Okay.
What the chemists do with it and what they make out of it, really, I mean, it's interesting when they talk about it, but they make way too many products for me to understand anything special. Um, yeah, so it is super thick, sludgy stuff that has to be heated up real high to be separated, um, and the process, and so the cost of that processing gets out of gets out of control, which is why the Venezuelan people are not able to really enjoy their uh, the benefits of having their oil industry because the infrastructure that was seized from the American companies has not been maintained, has not been updated, not been modernized, and was allowed to fall into disrepair, and it just didn't function as well, so it wasn't as efficient. And because they don't have the good clean stuff that has low cost to process. That's very expensive stuff to process. And you're able to make things like asphalt out of it, like I said, and diesel. Um, so the it, it's just a thicker oil. If you think about like a light thin machine oil, okay, or a motor oil, okay, that's still thicker. You wouldn't make gasoline out of that. I mean, you could. You got to crack it a lot more. Um, like Texas City does have the city called Texas City. There's a Marathon refinery there. It used to be owned by BP. They do have a unit that can turn asphalt into gasoline, but that is a expensive unit to operate. But they can do it. Um, there's just easier ways to make gasoline than doing it with Venezuelan oil. So if we think about what's the primary use for oil? It is still making gasoline and other fuel derivatives. But there's other markets they can tap, and if they can get better processing equipment installed and they can get it again cheap to operate, it's hydrocarbon chains. Break it down, reassemble it. You can do a lot of things with it. But right now, they're Venezuela was just having to sell off stuff that they couldn't do a good job processing it and sell it cheap because they were selling it to people on the down low anyway.
But for us, it's definitely plenty usable, right?
We have places that can process it and turn it into useful things for us. It's not gonna show up at cheaper prices at the pump, I wouldn't think. I mean, the pump can't get much cheaper, by the way.
Yeah.
We're already probably hovering on places like Houston going into deep localized recession because they're gonna be closing refineries at this point at the current price of Texas crude. I mean, we call it the price of oil, but the price of gasoline. The places that make gasoline, probably the places that collect the oil that goes into making gasoline, they're going to be seeing some pullbacks in operations.
Well, interesting. I think that's actually all we had for our agenda. Did you have anything else you want to tag here on the end?
I guess we had a little bit of that. I guess we don't really have to get into that. We never really hit that in the conversation. Do
you have a link for this? We can put the Wall Street Journal article in the.
I can tack on one. I can tack on one last thing. Well, it's behind a paywall, so I can.
What's the name of the article? What would we search if folks who are looking for it?
You would look under Hannah Aaron Lang and her article on January 12th. He's their daddy. Meme stock traders rush to Powell's defense, which I did not do.
Here it is.
Yeah. So I had a mutual contact put me in touch with her and say I definitely had some thoughts on Powell and the Fed, so it might be a good interview. But like you know what happened today that hadn't happened in a couple of days? The king rolled over, may have awakened from his slumber.
I still have no idea what you're talking about. I love this tease. What's happening? Oh, Bitcoin. Bitcoin.
The alpha predator of global liquidity.
Well, so I see you've got some notes there right next to your little target tested and rejected.
Yeah. I'll share them. Maybe you can see it.
There it is.
All right. Yeah. So look, we had a 36% pullback for everybody who thought it was too expensive. And we bounced off this little red trend line here, got back inside our rising wedge, tested this 87.3, and like if I zoom in on these, you can see like these are almost all like just really short pops below this line, and then a bunch of small wicks here where it just tried to go below this for a week, like every day for a week it tried to go below this. And it just couldn't get a close down there. It just couldn't do it. which just told me, yep, we're still good, off and to the right. And yeah, our RSI hit 70 again yesterday. So yeah, the crypto's demise, crypto winter may have been called a tad early.
Do you have any thoughts on how this is moving in relation to gold and silver? Because those two just continue to rip higher and higher, and like Bitcoin seems to be catching some momentum back, but those two, like the actual gold and silver, have just taken off.
Well, you asked. Well, here's your chart: Bitcoin v silver. So yeah, Bitcoin is relative to the price of silver of August 23.
So it doesn't look like there's really much, if any, correlation at all.
I mean, we could also pull up silver. And I don't know if this is the right one to use or not, but then I can also...
It looks right to me. It's parabolic.
I can also overlay Bitcoin on top of it.
There you go.
I don't. Okay, I've got scale here. So they're independent scales, but you can just kind of see how the price action went. Like if you kind of normalize it back here where they started, I guess if we squeeze at it.
Now, if both of these are a measure of liquidity and to some point a hedge against the US dollar, do you think that Bitcoin could be like a catch-up trade here, and that's why we've seen some really positive moves lately?
I don't know why. Well, I know why Bitcoin was not being used, because Bitcoin is still a retail or U.S. domestic tool. Foreign central banks, particularly those in China and Russia, have to stack the hard metals. They got to stack the gold and the silver, especially Russia. So as they're feeling more under threat, they've got to stack the gold. So I would not be surprised if there's ever a global account, if there was ever a public ledger for gold like there's for Bitcoin, you would see Russia bought all the gold.
And why are they stacking these metals? Like, what do they get out of it other than getting off of US dollar? What do they get out of stacking?
They do. They get off the US dollar. So I mean, when they when Russia invaded the US the first time, we seized all their assets. Right. Well, we couldn't seize their gold holdings.
Right.
So is China stacking gold now because they're anticipating getting upside down and backwards with U.S. sanctions?
Definitely interesting. I mean, that's why I've not dabbled into gold or silver. It just feels more like a geopolitical trade than anything, and that's not really my jam.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at them like, yeah, man, I wish I had bought some, but then it's like, yeah, but you don't know jack about, you know more about AI and Palantir. You know more about what goes on inside Palantir than you do about the silver trade. But yeah, people were trying to say, oh, silver and gold, they're going to be used in data centers. I'm like, nah, that ain't it. Well, PB Hodka, if China's going to invade Taiwan, they better do it soon because they're going to run out of military-aged males. Or they're going to be invaded with a bunch of 40-year-olds.
They can. Hey,
when they do, they're going to invade. But if they wait that long, maybe here's their problem. If they wait that long, the U.S. will have the AIM-260 in full service by then. And Lord knows what Palmer Luckey will have invented by 2030. So God help them.
God help them indeed. Did we want to wrap with stock draft?
We haven't really talked about that. So yeah, I guess the we can have the conversation now that we would have in chat later. So sure. I had a little bit of an idea.
This one, or you meant
okay, our previous stock draft. Okay. Yeah, Junie is on a rip. Like, I have been doing well, especially as VG has gotten its act going together. But holy cow, Junie is just ripping lately. And
look at this Rocket Lab 261. We started this in June, guys. Not the name June. We started it in the month of June.
Yeah, June is also ripped though. Just killing it.
AMAT and RCAT, Hood as well. Google.
Yeah, just great job on those picks, June.
Is this what the kids do these days? They do this one?
Yeah, I don't know if it's two fingers or one finger. It's one of those, one finger or two finger. I don't know.
Did I turn 30 and I'm immediately old? I just call them kids now.
They are kids.
You're not doing too bad yourself. Let me pull yours up.
Yeah, I was able to jump back. Like, I was able to fight off ChatGPT and a few other challengers, like you.
You've got Rocket Lab and ASTS as well, and SoFi. Yep. Hims, man, Hims.
VG still hurting me, but it's at least gotten a little relief the last couple of days. But yeah, Hims. I mean, Hims is in trouble because you don't hear anybody talk about it anymore. Like, you used to hear Roy, to go back to our boy Roy, used to hear him talk about Hims 4 times a week. You don't hear nobody talk about it no more.
So, Nate's still talking about Hims. But yeah, I mean, I guys,
but if retail YouTubers,
I bought Hims at $6. Okay, there's a guy named Beat the Denominator who he has these really good spreadsheets that he uses on his videos, and he just pointed out how stupid cheap Hims was at $6. And looking into the company, I was like, okay, well, you know what their core products are. They were growing really fast, and it makes sense to attack a really slow moving carcass like healthcare, where nothing makes sense, nothing is transparent, everything is inefficient. And if you could just attack that with a direct consumer model, that all made sense to me. But when you get a CEO who's retweeting Antonio Linares as he is selling stock the same week, and then you get into this like on again, off again thing with Novo, and their GLP-1 growth is all gone now because they're not allowed to even sell that product because they were doing it in kind of a sketch way. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, what do you have left now that the management has shot themselves in the foot? And we don't know how much growth is actually inorganic when you take away the weight loss product. Yeah, no, like you mentioned, I mean, the retail following behind Hims has significantly gone down. I sold all of my stock at $40. It's now sitting at $31.
Yeah. So you made a great trade on it. I mean, you didn't sell the top, whatever. You bought at $6 and sold at $40. Great trade.
Yeah, it was super small, way small. So I didn't make that much on it. I flip-flopped on it a few times. Like, I bought it and sold it, bought it and sold it along the way. Luckily, I didn't hurt myself too much, but this one was a hard one to hold just because it was a heart rate monitor type price action for quite some time.
I was in it and out of it multiple times. I mean, I collected on it, but last June, I mean, everything was seeming was probably right around here when we were hitting it, right? And then you just had this giant fall off.
What am I getting beat up on? Oh, of course, Hims as well. Everything else is in the green, but Home Depot and Fannie Mae and Amazon have just not been getting it done here. Everything else, though, not too bad.
Amazon. So
SoFi,
if we
Shop.
look at 2026, Amazon and Microsoft could be the trades. I mean, only Nvidia and what Google or the Mag 7 beat the S&P last year. So are the Magnificent Seven really that magnificent if they can't beat the S&P 500?
Listen, we have to change who the Mag 7 is because
I think there have to be the Elite Eight.
Elite Eight and throw Broadcom in there.
Yep.
I don't know if Tesla should even be in there.
I mean,
like when you look at like their cash from operations and their revenue, they're not even in the same league.
Fair enough.
For now.
Well, what if they do merge with SpaceX?
Okay, so walk through how that happens, because I know Chamath made that prediction.
Yeah.
So
it's Chamath's prediction. I'm just playing what if.
Yeah. So how walk me through how that might happen.
I mean, Tesla uses cash on hand to purchase shares in SpaceX.
They can't afford SpaceX. Tesla has cash on hand, $18 billion, 23 in short-term investments. So they have $41 billion of essentially liquid cash. And then they have current liabilities of $31 billion. So they're basically working on a $10 billion.
Yeah, they could do it. They could do a stock. But even if they have to do like a split to get that level of liquidity, or not a split, a
issuance.
Yeah, an issuance to raise that level of liquidity. Yeah, I think all the SpaceX holders would take that. They're like, wait a minute, you're gonna give me shares. You're gonna take my shares in SpaceX, and you're gonna give me shares in Tesla and SpaceX. Yes.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah. So like if they issued more shares and diluted, you think that the buying appetite would be enough because people would want into SpaceX that they're okay with the dilution and they'd buy.
Yeah. So if you're a Tesla shareholder and you're getting diluted, but you're getting diluted for the purposes of owning SpaceX, okay. Well, I mean, getting diluted is never fun, but if the result of your dilution is you now own Starlink and SpaceX as well, okay. I mean, you're getting something for your money. It's not just they're just raising cash for unknown reasons. You know what I mean? Like you know what you're getting for your money. Right. And then if you're a SpaceX shareholder, you're like, wait a minute, I get a bunch of Tesla for this. Like I get all the cars and Tesla AI and all that other value, Optimus and everything as well.
Well, that would affect this comp package too, right? It'd make it way easier for him to hit it because if it's one combined entity, and all they have.
And look, Chamath is friends with the guy. I'm not. So, I mean, at some point it does make sense because, like, I mean, the other thing to think about is like, okay, well, who are going to take the first starships to Mars? It's going to be a bunch of Tesla bots driving a bunch of Cybertrucks. Like, that's what's going to happen, right? And
it's entirely possible.
The neural network that's in Tesla AI is going to be used by SpaceX. I mean, they're going to have FSD rockets. To do things like docking and orbital transformation, and it's way easier to have a computer that runs off of cameras. Oh my God, that runs off of cameras only, to be able to dock multiple spacecraft together. Oh my God, that I just thought of that. That makes so much effing sense. Oh my God.
So it sounds like you're going to be buying some Tesla, huh? Like I could see
No,
the gears turning in real time. You thinking about buying?
yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, like he could just make an Elon ETF and just roll it all up into Tesla. Because remember, the reason he didn't bring SpaceX public is he thought it was too risky. Well, at this point, he's engineered all the risk out. I feel like he's engineered the riskiness out of it. Not to say that launch isn't inherently risky and manned launch isn't inherently risky already, but um
Well, they've just done it enough. They've proven it, and
right.
also like, who even cares about financials when you're investing in Elon? Like, I care about financials, which is why I don't invest with
Why you don't
Elon.
invest in Elon? Yeah, but that's Elon's superpower though, is he gets people to invest in a vision, not to invest in.
Right.
He gives them a, which is a great CEO skill that Wall Street and finance people, not unlike yourself, I love you, but like there's just a little bit of, sometimes it always comes back to the money unless the people have a mission. And if the people have a mission, they will deal with the money not making sense for a long time. And we know that because there's the things called churches and religions.
Well, I like to see both, right? So I want to see the mission and the statement and the drive of what like problem they're trying to solve. But I also want to see that lead to money, or at least show that like the money is in the pipeline, and that it's inevitable.
Done that, though. I mean, they've done it.
Yeah, but then it started going the wrong way.
Price, like your problem is not that they're a good car company. Your problem is that they're being priced like they're not.
They're priced like they're the winner already of full
growing.
self-driving and robotics, and I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion that they're the winner in either of those categories.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they could be.
3 years ago, they were the leader in that stuff. Now, I feel like they've sacrificed a little bit of the lead. And was that because the CEO is a little distracted with his side quest in politics, and maybe also with his side quest at his rocket company and his Boring company and his Neuralink company? And it's just like you need a full-time CEO to get Tesla from zero to where it was at. You could have the guy with the mission, but now to level it up again and to grow into the valuation it has right now, for the financials to grow into the valuation it has right now, you might need a professional manager. I cringe when I say that.
But he does deserve some credit where credit's due with X and freedom of speech. And for the parts that he has played in politics, I know Doge wasn't necessarily a resounding success, but we're starting to see some of that work now coming into effect. It's a little bit late.
Minnesota,
a few other states, we're seeing it in Ohio. You're also seeing, it's not like he was sitting on his hands doing nothing. He was
working his ass off.
He was working his ass off on SpaceX and XAI, putting all of that together in a really rapid fashion. And now he's refocusing on, Tesla and what that means. And he seems to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, though, with the politics. So it's constantly an evolving situation.
Well, he's in a position where he has to do politics. Because he's big enough.
Right.
Right.
He can't opt out.
His problem is he took his customer base which was on one political side, a lot of his customer base that was on one political side, and not that he ditched them, but the world moved or shifted or whatever, right? But he's on the wrong side of those people now. And not just the people, the government, especially the European governments, that are all super liberal. He's on the wrong side of all those folks now. And he doesn't own China because he hired a bunch of Chinese engineers for Tesla, and just through the natural churn, a bunch of them went to work at Baidu, and they learned how to do Tesla at Tesla, and now they know how to do it at other companies. So, he's pollinated EVs all around the world, right? Which, if you'd have asked him in 2020, hey, do you want all these companies to be, you're going to have all these successful EV companies in Asia and in the United States, Tesla's going to be shipping 2 million cars a year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Like, is that the vision you're working for? Is it, yes, I want more than Tesla to win. I want EVs to be a thing. Now, EV markets, like, he never did a job. He never tried to sell his car. So, the only advertising that really happened was counter advertising ever. And so people were able to say, well, I don't, he had a certain political base that said, we want gasoline only. Right. We're not interested in the EV market. But at some point, shouldn't we stop calling it the EV market and it just becomes the new auto market? Like, does it not ever get subsumed ever? Like, how many vehicles do they have to make every year and sell every year before they're just considered new cars?
Well, I mean, if Ford or GM can't make EVs at a profit, it's going to stay a mixed market for quite some time.
Ford's jumping right back in.
Maybe. Depends. I mean, if they can't get components, and like a lot of the components that they need to make those EVs are based in China, then they're not going to push EVs like the previous administration was, where they're like mandating by 2030. Like, that's all going to go away, and things will get pushed out.
Yeah.
But I think that wraps it, because we've been going for over 2 hours.
Like, is it time for a clap and then we start talking about movies or something?
No, I'm done with the movies. I've got to work tomorrow. It's been a long week. I had to garner some strength here just to make it on for this one after the week I've had. But thank you everybody for coming. We will be back on our regularly scheduled programming here of Wednesday nights. So whatever time that is for you, like roughly 9:45, 10 Eastern-ish. For those on the West Coast, that would be 6:45, 7-ish.
I think the probably best way to put it right now is, I think the best time for us to start is right around when Steve and Tanner wrap up.
Yeah, there you go. And there might be some overlap too. So, you could start over there and then make your way over here and catch up with us. Down below, my ex, Dougie's YouTube channel. We are co-streaming, so you can see on either of our YouTube channels. Do we have any good jokes to end? Dougie, knock knock.
Any good jokes? I mean, no, not this week, June. I'm sorry. We just had too much shenanigans going on in the world. We actually did have a very good joke today, but it was between me and my wife, and we realized no one else in the universe would get this joke because they haven't been married to either of us for 13 years. Which is, hey, the benefit of being married to someone for 13 years is you can just have like those inside jokes no one else ever has, right?
Exactly.
But hopefully that's an amusing enough story that everybody just gets to chill with that. Austin, you're gonna get there someday, bro.
Oh, trust me, we've already got tons of inside jokes, but we don't have the 13-year-old jokes.
Yeah.
June, I've got one for you, and this will be our sign off. How does an ocean say goodbye? How does an ocean say goodbye? Do you know it, Dougie?
Nope, but it's going to be a pun.
It waves. It waves.
Mid-level humor right there. Egregia level humor, ladies and gentlemen.
There it is. An ocean says goodbye because it waves. Okay. That will do it. Good night, everybody.
Another banger episode. Yep. As the kids say, a banger of an episode.